Welcome to this iReady refresher for Ravenswood City School District teachers and staff. All teachers, if you complete this webinar and the accompanying quiz, you will be paid for 1 hour of professional development. If you are instead looking for an answer to a specific question, or for example, one of these specific outcomes that I will talk about in a moment, you can actually find that specific video in the links around this video, and you do not have to watch this entire video. Again, if you are a teacher participating in this and you complete the accompanying quiz or survey, then you actually will be paid 1 hour of professional development, paid for 1 hour of professional development. So our outcomes today are that teachers will be able to reassign tests, assign extra lessons, understand data from iReady, use iReady data to inform instruction, and communicate about iReady to parents. Again, I will have taken each piece of this and cut it into a shorter video. So if you're only looking to learn about one of these things, just watch that video. You do not need to watch this entire webinar. This entire webinar is meant for those who are looking for their 1 hour professional development payment, as well as those who would like an overall refresher on iReady. Reassigning a test in iReady. Why would you want to do this? There's really two reasons. One is that you're at a point in the year where you would like to reassign to the entire class to see where they currently are compared to where they started. And you also want the lessons that they are taking to now be adapted to where they currently are and not where they were at the beginning of the year or the last time they took the test. The other reason you might be looking to reassign a test is because a specific student has rushed. I will show you later on, or in another one of these videos, how to find if a student has rushed. But for right now, I'm going to show you how you would reassign the test for a student or group of students. You'll see I've clicked this tab over to the iReady program, which I've already logged into as a teacher, which is why you will see some of these things are blacked out, because I blacked out names of teachers and students to keep everything private. To reassign a test, I will click on Assignments. Then I will make sure that the tab marked Class Management has been clicked, which already loads the first time that I click on Assignments. Next, I will select my class, and I will select Reading this time. And then I will click the box next to Add Test. Now, I am adding one for all of my students, so I'm going to select all students. But if I wanted to instead select specific students, I could select the boxes next to those specific students. But I'm not doing that. I'm going to select all students and click Go. It says, you are choosing to add a test to one or more students. It's telling you that this test will be assigned to any students who are not assigned a test, who are not in the middle of a test. But they will have to start this test, any students who are assigned it, they will have to start it the next time they log into iReady under their reading or math, whichever subject you've assigned the test under. They are not able to do any lessons until they've completed this test. So really think strategically about when you are reassigning this test, knowing that the next time the students go on to iReady, they will have to begin that test. It should be a lot faster and a simpler process than that at the beginning of the year, but it's still really important to think carefully about when you are giving these tests. Now I'm going to click no because this is not my class, but if it were, I would click yes that I want to add this test to all my class. Now, if you wanted to assign for specific students, instead of selecting all, you select one or two, or as many as you'd like, and then you click Go. And again, you would say yes, I want to add the tests, and I will not do that. Assigning extra lessons in iReady. Now, why would you want to do this? You may want to do it because you're following up on something that you've taught in class and you want the entire class to review it. Or even you want a small group to review what you've taught in class because you think they could use a little bit more practice, and perhaps having someone else explain it to them or having them interact on iReady would be a much better way of practicing than doing a small group review. Another reason you might assign an extra lesson is because you believe that a student needs some extra support on a topic, and this is not something that you have time or are able to cover in a small group lesson. So you can assign to one or more students extra lessons on a specific topic. In order to assign extra lessons, you'll click on Assignments. And I know it's very tempting to click on Extra Lessons, but that is only if you're assigning by each individual student, which is not something we are looking to do right now. Right now, we are looking to effectively add lessons in a quick way. So under Class Management, which has already been tagged, I'm going to select my class. I'll select Math this time. And I'm going to select the box next to Add Extra Lessons. Next, I decide, am I adding this to all students or just to a select group? Perhaps this time I've decided that just these 4 students need extra support in one specific thing. So once I've selected those 4 students, I'm going to select Go. And I'm going to select the domain that I'm looking for. Now, I want them to practice subtraction. So I'm going to click on Numbers and Operations and look at what we have for subtraction. Now let's see, I see that they're subtracting 10 from a 2-digit number, a late first grade lesson, subtracting 2-digit numbers, late first grade lesson, subtracting a 1-digit number from a 2-digit number. There's many subtractions, but these are not actually the kind of subtraction I want them to practice. I wanted them to practice a specific skill within subtraction. So I realized this is not the kind of lesson I want to add. I'm going to click Cancel. And instead I'm going to now click Go again, this time selecting Algebra and Algebraic Thinking. And I click Next. Okay, now let's see. Using length to represent subtraction, subtraction separate. Oh, here we go. I want students to practice counting up in subtraction. This is an early 2nd grade lesson, and I can see the correlated California standards as well as the correlated Common Core standards. I'm going to close those right now. Now, if I'm not sure if this is the lesson that I actually want them to do, I can click on the name and I can actually view these parts to see, is this actually what I want them to learn? So maybe I will click on the quiz and I will view the quiz to actually see, is this what I want them to be able to do? Or is there something else that I actually want them to be able to practice that maybe this lesson doesn't necessarily address? So let's see. Okay. Oh, this actually does look pretty similar to what I'd like them to do. Okay. Now I have the sound turned off, but you can see how it's showing to count up from 20 to 22. This is actually what I'd like them to do, so that's great. I'm going to close this tab up here, closing it. And yes, this is the lesson I want them to do, so I'm going to close this and click the box next to counting up, and I will add it to these students. Now it will ask you, are you sure you want to add these extra lessons to these selected students? I do not, because this is not my class, but if I did, I would select yes. Again, if you wanted to assign to all your students, you would just click on all students with instruction, select Go, select that domain, find the lesson you want to assign, click the box, and click Add, and then say yes, I want to assign it to those students. Understanding the data. Now, I had some slides for this but we're actually going to go right into the iReady program because they've actually changed things pretty recently. So I want you to be up to date on understanding which reports will give you the best information that you are looking for. So I'm in iReady and I click on the reports page. Now you'll see I have class reports and I have student reports. Right now I'm looking for class reports, and I see that there are 4 different kinds of reports. There's class profile, class norms, instructional grouping profile, and class response to instruction. Now the class profile will show me how my students have done on the test that they have taken. Either tests they took at the beginning of the year, a recent test, and actually when I select this class, I will say, I want you to show me how they did on tests that they took in the fall, in the winter, and soon I will be adding a spring as well. Class norms. This shows you how your class compares to a normal group of students at this level, kind of an average students. Where do my students lie? Instructional grouping is something that you could use to figure out how to group students, but really this is such kind of high level data that it's really not as useful as any kind of running record or standard by standard breakdown that you might be doing yourself. Class response to instruction. Now this shows you how your students are doing on the lessons they are taking. This is the only class report that shows you how students are doing on the instruction, on the lessons they are taking. This is the only thing that's going to change unless you reassign a test, in which case the profile and the norms and the grouping profile will change as well. But the response to instruction is the only thing that reflects the lessons that students are doing every week. So I look, yes, academic year, yes, select them by class, yes, I want to look at my math class. If not, I would click here and select my reading class. And I want you to show fall, winter, added window. So you select, when do you want to see student activity? I actually want to look at student activity from the last month. So I'm going to click on last month. And when I create this report, it's going to show me how students were doing on the instruction in the past month. So I run this report and I see that in this class, there were 109 lessons completed in the past month, with a total time of on task of 43 hours and 9 minutes. I can scroll down and I can see specific students, and I can see how many lessons they've completed, their overall pass percentage, and what domains those are in. I also see that I have a student who has an orange triangle next to it. And this orange triangle is telling me that this student is having some trouble. And I can see there's an overall pass rate of 57%. But if I didn't see that before, this orange exclamation mark really helps me see that. This report is also the only report that will allow you to click on the name and it will actually open up the student response to instruction. So it will show you specifically for this student how this student has been doing in the lessons. Student response to instruction, class response to instruction, the only 2 reports that really hold valuable data that changes from week to week. So I'm going to click on this student and I'm going to see this student is a 3rd grade student, but currently they are working in numbers and operations and moving up towards 2nd grade from where they started, which was a beginning 1st grade level. Now I look down here and I see, okay, completed all these in numbers and operations. You may be asking, why are they only doing numbers and operations? And that is probably because overall this student was at least at 2nd grade level for algebra and algebraic thinking, measurement and data, and geometry. And so what they do is they try to make sure that the student has equal footing in all 4 of these mathematical domains. If this student was at 3rd grade level for everything except geometry, then they would give them a lot of geometry lessons starting wherever they needed and bring them up to 3rd grade before they would give them any lessons in any of the other domains. Now, as I scroll down, I see that this student had trouble with regrouping 10s as 1s, and they failed it twice actually. And one time spent quite a bit of time on here trying to work on that. So this tells me that regrouping 10s as 1s, this is something that I should check in with this student on. And I may have to teach a lesson about it. Now, you may be asking, how do I find resources on teaching this lesson? I will actually show you that a little bit later. But right now, it's just something to notice that this student really needs support in regrouping 10s as 1s. And we'll come back to that in a little bit, how I can teach this student or how I can work with this student. Now I can select this back button right here, and it will actually take me back to the class report on instruction. And I can see for the rest of the students how they are doing. This is just in the past month. So you see some students, there's no activity. They may have been absent the days we went. They may have been actually doing reading instead of math. So just because there's no activity does not mean these students have not been working, because they could have been working in another subject. They also could still be working on one assignment, and until they finish that lesson, it's not going to show that they've done anything here. Now I see another student who has an orange exclamation mark. I'm going to click on that student, and I'll see that this student, as I scroll down, is having trouble. Oh, the same thing, regrouping 10s as 1s, although this student eventually got it the second time. But that may still be another student that I want to pull into a group to focus on regrouping 10s as 1s. Now, using iReady data to inform instruction. If you viewed the earlier part when I was talking about understanding data from iReady, you will know that in this specific class I'm looking at, there were 2 students who were struggling with regrouping 10s as 1s. So what I am going to do right now is I am going to click on the resources page. The resources have tons of lessons that can support students in many different domains, subjects, from reading to math. So I'm going to click on resources, and this tools for instruction is where I want to look. I choose my subject, math, and I choose my domain, numbers and operations. And I'm going to click get tools. This is going to provide me with a list of a whole bunch of different lessons that I could use to support my students. And this is in regrouping 10s as 1s. So let me see if there is anything here. There's 2-digit addition with regrouping, subtraction within 10, rounding. I don't see what I'm looking for here. So I'm actually going to click the X. And maybe it's going to be under algebra and algebraic thinking. So I'll get tools. Now let's see. Sums of 10, counting on by 2s, double facts, counting back to subtract, subtraction word problems. So in this case, I don't see anything in iReady that's necessarily going to support me. So this is where I would look to everyday math, or I might look to other supplemental resources that I can find. But let's say, just for an example, that the student is having trouble with something that's specifically here, that there is a lesson for. So students are struggling with using models to subtract 10. Okay, so I can click on this PDF, And this PDF will open up a lesson plan, something that I can teach in class. And it tells me, here's the objective that you're looking for. Here's what I need. Base 10 blocks and a hundreds chart. And they actually have the hundreds chart for me that I can print out. They show me that there are 2 ways that I can teach this. Each one will take me about 10 to 15 minutes, which is great for a small group activity, a small group reteach. And it also will show me a check for understanding. So if you see that a student's having trouble in this or confusing this or doing something wrong, they give you kind of a, this might be what the student's doing, and here's what you can try. So it's really great to help you kind of be able to look at what students are doing and really figure out, how do I address that specific need they have right now? Now, the same thing goes for reading. There are many tools here. So for instance, maybe I want to work on comprehension with my class. So I clicked on reading, comprehension, and then get tools. And then it will give me all the lessons they have for reading comprehension. So I see, oh, this is what we're really working on, key ideas and details. And yet everything I've done from all the tools that I have in class from our core curriculum just aren't working. So I'm going to click on PDF, and I'm going to see what this lesson plan can contribute. Okay. It's going to take 30 to 45 minutes. I could do this as a whole class. I could split this up and do this in small groups. But it looks like it starts with introducing key ideas and details, modeling, finding key details in the text, providing guided practice. Okay, so it does say that they'll need a text that they're working on, and provide independent practice. And it tells me if the students are struggling to locate the key ideas and details, here is some support that I can offer to them. It's really a step-by-step way of helping you figure out, what lesson do I teach as intervention for this skill that students need support with. Communicating about iReady to parents. Now, they do offer a parent report here under student reports. This parent report tells this parent report tells the parent how the student did on the test, not how they're doing on the instruction. But maybe you just gave them the test and you want to give to the parents how they did. You can run an individual report, which will run for one student, or you can run a batch report, which will run it for all of your students. So I want to run it for all my students for the winter 2013 tests, and actually here it says there were no tests taken. In fall though, all my students took the test. I can create that. I'll click create report, and it will create my parent reports, which means for every parent it will create the report of how each student did. And let's see what happens when I open this up. All right, so you'll see it downloaded as a PDF, and it has every student's score on how they did on the test, where they should be, as well as it explains the math domains. Now, this is only in English, so if you were going to send it home in Spanish, you would have to do a translation, which actually you could do a broad translation of what it all means and then attach it to each one, because the information is the same except for how the student did on the math test and how they're doing in each one of those domains. Alternatively, you could actually sit down with a parent and talk to them. You could have the student log in and show their parent how they're doing. Because actually, I'm going to log out right now and log in as a student. When the student logs in, they actually will get to see some of the data of how they're doing on these lessons that they've been taking. So I'm going to select a subject, select math, and I can click on my progress as a student, and I can see, oh, I have passed 3 lessons. I can even look at the details of those lessons. I've passed 3 out of 3 lessons on numbers and operations. I've taken lessons on counting objects in a set, counting with one-to-one correspondence, and numerals and counting up to 10. And look, every time I passed 100%. This is some great information for students to be able to show their parents of what they're doing on the computer at school and how they are doing in their lessons. My start, I'm sure you've seen this when students log in. I just wanted to let you know that when you do create those extra lessons, students will actually see this as their individualized lessons, and they'll see a blue button that says start lessons for their extra lessons that you've assigned. So you can actually specifically tell students, go to your blue lessons today because we are all going to be doing this lesson. Or you can say, every time you open up iReady, if there are a blue button, I want you to click on that because those are extra lessons I want you to practice before you get started with your personal lessons for the day. I really hope that this webinar has been a support in helping you understand how to use iReady data. I will have a survey at the very end of this video, and if you could fill that out, please, to show your understanding, and if you need any more support with using iReady, please let me know. And I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you.